14th, 2022. And this is the first episode of The Dispatch. So, we are, I guess, in an effort to try and bring you guys more content. Our goal is to try and do a video twice a week, hopefully live most of the time, maybe some pre recorded shows. But this will be episode number one. So, welcome to all of you who are tuning in. I'm just going to kind of get the comment areas up and running. And that way, if you guys are commenting, I can make sure to have those going. So, we are really excited to have you guys tuning in. As always, please be sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channels. We're on YouTube and Facebook right now for videos. We also have a Rumble channel, but you can't, at least I can't, see a place in Restream to go live on Rumble as well. So we are just on Facebook and YouTube right now live, and then we'll upload later to Rumble. And then you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook and MeWe and Getter and Truth Social. I think those are all the ones we're on right now. Hopefully some additional ones here in the near future. So what is the Dispatch and what are we going to be doing on this show? Well, primarily what I wanted to do was there's seriously a lot of times where I can't get to a lot of stories just because of time constraints. And so we want to maybe talk about some of those stories that I couldn't get to in time before they become quote unquote old news, right? And so we want to do some of that. We want to do some interviews. We do interviews with candidates, but it'd be kind of fun to bring on some live interviews from all sides of the political spectrum and do those as well, and give you guys some different content, maybe content that's obviously more Idaho related as opposed to whatever you're watching on the nightly news, if you watch the nightly news. And so that's kind of the goal. And so the object right now is to do Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Pacific Time. For those that don't know, Idaho covers 2 time zones. It's kind of annoying. Anytime I'm making memes and stuff, it's like, hey, 9 o'clock. Oh, yeah, we got all these people up north that also need to know what time zone it's going to be. So that's the goal, twice a week. I will tell you tonight, I am I'm live. My wife is not at the house tonight and won't be on Thursday. So there's no guarantees that one of my 4 kids that are at home right now won't come up and start banging on the door because something happened, right? So fair warning, that could happen. I already had to move. We got some baby chicks, and we had to move the baby chicks out. They were in the office because it kind of got cold. I don't know, down here in southern Idaho and southeast Idaho, it got pretty chilly in the garage, and we have heat and stuff, but just in case, we brought them inside last night. So I had to move the baby chicks out of the office today. So all that being said, a lot going on. Something may interrupt tonight. Hopefully not. They're all in bed except for the oldest, who's supposed to hold down the fort for me while I'm live. So, yeah, we hope that that's something you guys will do, and something that I hope I'll be able to kind of keep plugging away Tuesdays and Thursdays. We definitely want to do Tuesdays to make sure that we have more content coming out. So that is our goal. And one of the other things that we want to do on our show is thank our sponsors. We have a number of advertisers who support the Idaho Dispatch. They pay a little bit more than normal to do stuff like this, and so we really appreciate their support. And 2 of those advertisers are Alex Kincaid Law and the Carl Felt Center. Alex Kincaid Law, a good friend of mine, helps me out on a lot of legal stuff, especially when it comes to Idaho Dispatch. And then the Carl Felt Center is a natural health business in Meridian. Been there a lot of times too, taking my kids there. So both great companies and advertisers that support the Idaho Dispatch. All right, so the first subject that we want to talk about today is our survey that we did with, let me change this up here a little bit, the survey that we did on groceries. So if you're not on our email list, then you probably didn't get this survey. And so if you're not on our email list, be sure to go sign up. You can sign up on the website. But we've been working on some stories regarding the economy and how the current state of the economy is affecting Idaho citizens. And so I thought, well, why don't I just send out a survey to our email list and ask Idahoans how the current state of the economy is impacting you. And so let me jump over the chat here. So we got a lot of responses back. I think we're up to 45 now. At the time I wrote the article, I think it was 42. 45 responses, a lot of them very detailed, some of them not so detailed. and just how things are kind of impacting you when you're going to the grocery store in particular. And so the first question that we had, and you guys can actually go to idodispatch.com right now if you want, and you can kind of see the article that we have. It says, I don't think I clicked on the wrong one there. No, we're good. It says exclusive, Idahoans buying more generic brand foods, changing stores, and giving up non-essential items, non-essential food items. So the first question we had was, are there grocery items you are no longer buying? And this just covered a wide array of things. As far as when people go to the grocery store, are there items, because of the cost of those items and the cost of fuel and everything else, what are you having to give up? Are you giving up like snacks like chips and donuts and cookies and crackers and all that kind of stuff? And quite a few people responded that yes, they were giving up some of those things that were not considered staples to their diet, but just something that they enjoyed, and it was becoming far too expensive. So, I mean, there's just so much stuff in here that people were giving up: pastries, bottled water, donuts, no junk food, no junk food, no junk food, crackers, snacks. And then there was some other stuff that wasn't really built into our original question necessarily, but meat was a big one. A lot of people said they were giving up meat completely because it was too expensive, and especially, I would say, quality meat. Okay, so not necessarily pre-packaged meat, but they wouldn't go out necessarily and buy a big thing of prime rib or steaks or whatever because the prices were too high. Bacon was on there, chicken was on there, fish was on there. So in general, we saw a number of people saying meat across the board was something that they were giving up as a result of the higher costs. In addition to that, I'm looking at my spreadsheet here so I don't forget some of the stuff that people have brought up. Fruits and vegetables were also something that a number of folks have brought up, because fruits and vegetables have gone up as most things have in the store. And so they have been giving up those. And then, even though we didn't ask about it, and I kind of wish I would have now, but a number of folks also said they were gardening more. I know we are doing that in our house. We are doing more gardening. We've got chickens for eggs, and we've got more chickens that will hopefully be laying eggs by the fall. And so we're doing some of that on our own, but I didn't ask that question. I don't know why, but we did have a number of folks that said they were growing their own food now because it was a lot cheaper to grow their own food than pay the higher prices that they're currently seeing at the grocery store. So that was some of the stuff that people said they were kind of giving up on as a result of the higher prices. And then the other thing that we asked folks was, are you giving up, if you're buying more name brand stuff, are you going to more generic brands? So are you giving up, I don't even know, some name Lucky Charms and all those other types of name brand cereal to go to a more generic brand cereal? And quite a few people, I think we had 36%, if I remember correctly. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, I think 36% of people said that they were cutting or going to, name brand, or excuse me, more generic brands. Okay. And so quite a few people were already on generic, and then 36% said they had shifted to generic. So I don't remember what the overall total was, and we didn't put that in the article. And then there was I think 2 people maybe out of everybody that said they were sticking with the name brand stuff because they felt it was higher quality and they were just going to deal with the higher prices. And then a few folks, and this was not part of the article either, a few folks said that they want name brand stuff, but now they're running into shortages of some of that name brand stuff. And additionally, the the generic stuff. And so the generic stuff is becoming more sparse a lot of times and harder to find because a lot more people are probably shifting to generic brands. And some people even said that some generic brands have just dropped. And I think they had mentioned Winco chips, maybe, or whatever, are completely out and they don't have them anymore. And a few stores have their, like, so Walmart and Winco and Costco and all these places typically all have their own brand of different varying products, right? So there's Costco style, bread and cheese and all this other stuff. And so they're trying to go to that stuff, but they can't. Another person said they actually stopped having coupons because they said all the coupons are for the name brand stuff. And so, it's just too expensive. They said even with the coupon, it was still way more than what the name brand was. And they didn't mention any specifics, just in general, that they kind of stopped using coupons. And then we had a few folks, I think 4 or 5, that said, and again, this was not something we had asked, and I'm a little curious now, and maybe you guys can tell me in the chat. They have switched to different stores. And so some people are going from Fred Meyer and Walmart to Winco. Winco seemed to be a store that a number of them said they had switched to Winco, and then some were going back. They had stopped going to Costco and went back to Costco to try and buy more bulk to try and save on money and just stock up on some items that they needed. So there could potentially be a big shift in when people going to Winco to buy food to try and get away. And I don't know. I haven't honestly done a price comparison of Winco and Walmart and Fred Meyer to see what the impact of prices are on the exact same items. And so maybe something I'll try to do for another story to look that out. So let's see here. Let me jump into the chats here real quick, and then we'll continue on. All right. So Wyatt Hume says, let's get it. Can't wait for all the fake profiles to get on here and talk bad about it. I don't know. I assume you're talking about the Dispatch. Not sure. Josh Gibbons says, live shows are awesome. Well, thank you, Josh. We are going to try our best to do as many as we can. Steve says, I've given up hope with this president. We did plant a garden this year as a family. So obviously some of these comments are going back a little bit. Let's see. Is it Tone Loki? Interesting. I've seen prices go up across the board, but meat hasn't gone up or gone off on its own. Hey, sorry, I'm using this new system here, and it actually says I can show a comment. Oh, there you go. Oh, that's cool. And I don't have to read as much, or you can see how bad I'm reading. Let's see. Winco looked a little light in some areas, specifically noticed in the tinfoil baggy plastic wrap area. Yeah, so there were some other items that people said. So one of the other things that we'd asked about was what was missing from the shelves. And so this was also really wide-ranging. Baby formula came up, but only one person mentioned baby formula, and that may just be demographics. Like I didn't get a bunch of, moms in my email list that had just had babies that would have made this make sense, right? As far as the baby formula shortage, which I am told the plant is now back up and running, but it may take a few weeks for them to start pumping out the formula across the country to get it to where people need it. So, but here, let me just read some of the items that people had mentioned: toilet paper and paper towels, and some of the folks that had responded to this question said that it was kind of rotational. So there'd be certain items that were just missing all the time, and then they'd be there all of a sudden, and then something else was missing in its place. So, cereal, paper plates, lots of paper items, cat food, dishwashing soap, chips, drinks, less generic brands, bacon, diesel fluid, DEF, sugar, flour, breads, dishwasher baskets, gravy mixes. Let's see what else. Store brand chips, less gluten items. So there were some folks who said that they were gluten free and had to have gluten free stuff, and they said that those items are starting to not be there as much. Pizza flour, hand soap, meats. So quite a variety of different items that were missing from the shelves from a number of the folks who had reached out. In addition to that, we also had some interesting stories, people that had said that because of the fuel prices, not only are they cutting back on groceries and what they can buy, they're also not visiting family and missing out on other events with kids and grandkids because of the high cost. So I wanted to read a couple. I uploaded them here. So here's a couple quotes from individuals. This was from Amber in Boise. She said, "I buy store brands as much as possible or sale items. I shop at more than one store, but I've switched from Walmart Albertsons to Winco and the grocery outlet. I haven't really stopped buying certain foods, but I can't afford Costco anymore for groceries. However, that's the only place that is affordable for gas." So that was one of the folks who had just kind of told us a little bit about what they were going through. Another one said this individual is a trucker, Shelly in Garden City. In 2020, it was rough, but fuel was still relatively low. Let's say we take a load for 1,029 miles. We bid on our loads. We might have taken that load for around 4,000 with 500 going directly to fuel. I won't break down the whole expense thing just for simplicity's sake. The load used to be offered for around 3,000. Fast forward to now, they still offer that load at around 4,000, yet we have to bid no less than 6,500. Our fuel is now 1,485 for that trip, where it was around 500. So again, this is coming from folks in the trucking industry. So because we can't take the loss, and we are still taking massive losses, and the brokers can't take the massive losses, everyone hikes prices. I know everyone knows this, but I thought I'd give some actual numbers. So thank you to all the people who participated in the survey. We've got a few more in that I haven't even read, or updated into our system yet. I read one of them right beforehand. They said, a family of, I think it was 4 or 5, they just don't go out to eat anymore, not very often. And right now they're looking at maybe once a month, but they went out for pizza the other day and the bill was $100, for all of them to go out for pizza. I was walking around the grocery store today. I noticed, donuts was $10 a dozen. It's just a lot. And so, yeah, there's just, we noticed, I kind of walked around and looked at some of the quote unquote junk food, ice cream and all that kind of stuff. And everything's just gone up quite a bit. So if you guys are more than welcome to go read the article. You can send us your survey results. We'd still love to continue to build on this a little bit, and we're working on some other stories as well. Let me real quick while we're here, if you guys are willing and able, we'd love for you to be a subscriber to the Idaho Dispatch. Again, we have officially announced that we are going to continue for a 3rd year. It's tough. It's a lot of work. It's a ton of work. At some point, I'd love to get rid of most of the op-eds and just have a lot more news articles. Right now, it's just me until we can bring in enough subscribers and other stuff that we can, fund some better help and fund some actual help that we need. So $297 a month. I know times are really tough right now. If that's something you can afford at $297 a month, please go to idahodispatch.com/subscribe. And we'd love to have you guys become a member. And that helps us determine how much help we can actually get when the time comes. So, and we've got some good projects in the works that I hope that help will be for. All right, let's jump to the next story, which is, so we're working on a number of economic series stories, I guess you could call it. We were going to do that in the title, but it kind of took up all the room with, I think we had originally called it economy series, and then whatever the title of that particular subject was. But it was just too complicated and too long. And so we're just going to do some economic articles and hope that you guys appreciate those, and we'll share those and give us feedback. So one of the other stories that we did, the first story that we did in our economy series, was on local gun shops. So for those that don't know, the state of Idaho relies on the firearm industry more than any other state in the country. And so it's a big deal in Idaho. And with so many businesses relying on ammunition and stuff like that. And so we thought what we would do is go to local gun shops. So I went and visited 3 of them in person here in the Idaho Falls area. And then I called a number of them across the Treasure Valley and then some up in northern Idaho. And the big question was, what are they seeing as a result of inflation right now at local gun shops? And maybe you guys can tell me in the chat what you've possibly seen in your local gun shops. And so, first of all of them, had said prices have gone up, and that has to some extent slowed the buying. It hasn't necessarily stopped it completely, but it has slowed it significantly in some of the areas. Certain types of calibers and maybe certain types of weapons. And so we asked them, what happened at first was we asked them if it was impacting them at the very first store we went to. And that store said, but some of that is being offset by the current news cycle, right? So some of the mass shootings that are taking place, the gun control discussions in Congress, all of that is, according to all of them that we spoke to, probably counteracting some of the negative impacts of inflation, right? So, some of the store owners or managers that we talked to said, yeah, we're seeing some slowdowns, but there's still people in here and they're coming in and they're saying, hey, I want to buy this magazine because I'm concerned this size of magazine won't be available, or I want to buy this type of weapon because it won't be available potentially in the future. And so there are people who are kind of ignoring the prices of the ammunition and weapons and other accessories and just buying it because they feel like it's something they need to get before something happens in Congress or whatever the case may be. So that all of them kind of had the same answers. Inflation was having an impact. One of the stores did tell me that their numbers were higher, and I think this was Midstar Firearms, which is in between Star and Middleton. And they said that we actually have made more money, but we're paying a lot more. And so we've sold less firearms, made more money because of the higher prices, but we're also having to pay a lot higher prices to get those items in. And still some shortage issues that some of them have brought up, not in some of the more common ammunition, it sounded like, but it was a lot more in hunting type ammunition, 30-06 and stuff like that. So that was kind of our first story into our economic series. And so I hope that you guys have enjoyed those stories. Real quick, let me jump over and mention two of our other advertisers, which is Prestige Property Management and North End Real Estate. You can look them up if you're looking for a property manager, and if you're looking to do something with your home, or you're looking for a home, you can go to North End Real Estate. The home market is, I think, another one that we're going to try and do here in the near future is talk about homes, talk to some homeowners, talk to some real estate agents about what's happening. If you guys have some other ideas on economic issues, we'd love to maybe take a look at some of those issues. We're trying to look at issues that impact Idahoans on a broad scale. So maybe not like a niche area, so to speak. Vehicles was one we kind of wanted to look into. Maybe housing is something we can look into. So let us know what you guys think as far as potential stories, and we'll see what we can do. Let's see. I know I saw. So Steve Zimmerman says, by the way, Greg, I saw you at our local grocery store, but was too shy to say hello. Man, anytime. I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy with a podcast here, I guess. So stop by and say hi anytime. I don't know if it was recent. I'm limping around the store with my surgery that I got. So anyway, all right. So the final thing that we wanted to do or talk about just briefly is tips for if you have tips, if you work inside of a government agency and you have some tips about alleged corruption within your agency, we would love to have those tips. So I forgot to put this one up here. So let me put this out, my email address out here for you. Oops. It's not at email address, I can tell you that. All right, there we go. Where'd it go? Okay. So One of the things that I think the media used to do a long time ago and should do a lot more of is covering when there is corruption inside of government. And we have been doing that a lot more this year. And we have a lot more tips. We have a lot more stories that we're working on that are extremely time consuming and to some extent dangerous because not really sure what's going to happen if we start covering stuff like this. But, if you work within government or know somebody within government, send us a tip to info@idahodisbatch.com, and that way we can take a look at what you have. I would ask, as always, we have to go off of facts, we have to go off of evidence. And so if you send me a tip and you say, I work in this building and I heard so and so say this, they admitted that they did this wrong. Okay, I can't write a story about that, right? I have to have some proof, some evidence that something like that was said. So if you've got a snapshot of an email, if you've got a picture or a video or an audio recording or something like that, then let me know. Send that over. You can remain anonymous. Sometimes what we've told people is if you have corruption, but you don't want to lose your job, but you want it exposed, just guide us in the right direction. Give us a time and a date to do a public records request. Send an email over, blot out everything that needs to be blotted out so that it doesn't out you as the person, disclosing the information. At the end of the day, nothing within the government changes, right, if light is not shed on it. And if you're inside of a government agency and you're just too scared to do something because of your job, it's not really helping, right? Nothing's going to get better unless you stand up and say, hey, this enough is enough. And again, you can do that anonymously. We can do everything we can to protect you and to make sure that if you have information that somebody within the government agency that you work for is corrupt, we're happy to take a look at it. And so that's where you guys can send tips to info@idahodisbatch.com. And we're happy to look into stuff. Again, also please remember that I'm all on my own right now. And so sometimes I may ask you to help me as far as you're a citizen. Sometimes we have citizens that are like, hey, did you hear that this happened and you should look into this. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I'm doing so many stories at once right now. I need help. And so until we get to the point where we can hire help, you as a citizen can actually help me, gather information, right? Hey, reach out to somebody that because a lot of times it's, hey, I know so-and-so and they told me this. Okay, well, reach out to them and see if they'll talk to me, or reach out to them and get this information or do this, right? And so that's the goal. Is we want to shine a light on this stuff so that the public can be educated on what's happening and the public can decide whether or not, this alleged government corruption that might be taking place or something that an elected official or government official has done that is not good. We can bring that to your attention and you guys get to determine whether it's important or not. So for instance, let's take the I want to take the Canyon County story because this was kind of an interesting story. So not the FBI story and the Caldwell police, but there's a Canyon County commissioner. Her name is Pam White, who we got a tip. Okay, somebody brought us a tip and said, "Hey, did you know that this commissioner filed bankruptcy?" And I was like, "Okay, a lot of people file bankruptcy." And they're like, "No, the bankruptcy was for $12.7 million and they owe $100,000 to the government, $60,000 to the state of Washington and $40,000 to the IRS." And I was like, okay, this is definitely more interesting, and definitely something that somebody who's up for re-election, the public should know and determine whether that's important to them or not. This multi-million-dollar bankruptcy filed by her and her husband. And so we got the story. We got a 95-page bankruptcy. They owed like 50, I think it was 54 creditors or something along those lines. It was over 50. And we were the only ones that ran the story, except for the Idaho Statesman finally did. And the Idaho Statesman actually had it before us and didn't do anything with it. And so we eventually ran the story, and then the Idaho Statesman did eventually run it and gave credit to Idaho Dispatch, which is fine. I don't really care. And so the Idaho Press, though, which is the local newspaper in Canyon County, didn't run the story. I thought this is why the Idaho Dispatch is here, because to me, I don't know how that's not a news story. And I'm not criticizing Pam White or anything like that for having to go through a bankruptcy. Nothing like that. The question is, should the public know about this bankruptcy? Is it important? And this was the second one. There was actually another one that had been filed as well. And to me, that seems like a story, right? I can tell you that there's probably certain elected officials. Oh, actually, what do we need to guess? Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin has had a budget shortfall of $2,000. Okay. That's a story. Okay. Whether you like Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin or not, if a government official has a projected budget shortfall or an actual budget shortfall, that's a fair story. And I don't think anybody has any issues with that. So how is, though, someone who has a $12.7 million bankruptcy, now granted, this is not with public taxpayer money, the $12.7 million bankruptcy, and they owe $100,000 to the government, how is that not a story? You know, the big thing that people brought up to me was, if you have a bankruptcy and you're not doing well financially yourself, it can be very tempting while you're in government to potentially take a bribe or try to steal taxpayer money, all that kind of stuff. We have no evidence that she was doing that. That was just their concern, is that if somebody is missing that much money and owes people that much money, it could potentially jeopardize their job as a government official, right? And so that was the concern. And so, yeah, that's the type of stuff we want to do, is bring you guys stories that nobody else will talk about, bring you guys stories of government corruption that nobody else will cover. And on top of that, talk about other stories that are really important to you guys, you know, such as stuff that's happening in the economy or happening at the state house or happening in Congress or whatever. So anyway, with all of that, again, I hope you guys are willing to go to idahodispatch.com and subscribe. Again, $2.97 a month. You can do more. You can certainly do more. We won't complain. And if you're somebody who's interested in advertising with us, like you've seen our advertisers tonight, let us know. Let us know. We are happy to take some additional advertisers. Now, we are a statewide news site, so just keep that in mind. You know, a lot of our advertisers, I don't know that they're doing it for the clicks, and they do get a lot of clicks as much as they support the Idaho Dispatch and want to see us succeed. So let me jump over the chat here again real quick. Northern Gal says, Greg, you do a great job. Thank you. Well, we appreciate your support. Steve says, thank you for all your hard work. What else? Let's see. Okay, so this is from Tracy Hoadley. Greg, here's one for you. My brother had a closed door session tonight with the mayor and city council. It was called just bumped up here. It was called a name clearing hearing. The mayor would not allow my brother to call any witnesses to support his evidence. Then there were several folks lined up to support my brother, including some current CPD that he would not allow to speak on his behalf. So I guess, Tracy, reach out, send me an email to Greg at idahodispatch.com and kind of recap that for me and give me a few more details, and we will take a look. All right. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight for our first episode of The Dispatch. And be sure to share this video, encourage others. We will see you guys sometime on Thursday. I'm working, hopefully, on an interview for Thursday's episode, and it should be a lot of fun. Take care.